Jarren Duran continues to show just how special of a player he is on the field as he led the Boston Red Sox to their first win of the season against the Houston Astros.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And it's all for free. So you might as well check it out because Locked On is your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome to the show and happy Wednesday, and it certainly can be seen as a pretty happy Wednesday for the Red Sox because they finally grabbed a win against the Houston Astros last night, their first win against this team all season. They got swept at home against the Astros very recently, and then they go into Houston and lose the first game of that series in heartbreaking walk-off fashion by a score of 5-4. So it started to become like, okay, these boys need to figure it out and they just need to start beating the Astros. I mean, it became this thing where it was us questioning whether they had the capability to beat this Houston team. And finally, they had a breakthrough on Tuesday night. And a lot of that is to thank by Jarren Duran. The Red Sox did win the game 6-5, and it was a great game for Duran. Went 4 for 4 and scored 3 runs in the game. He drove in 2 and hit a home run. He has just been a menace on the field this year. 293 average, 350 on base percentage, and 512 slugging. And he was just very much in a position where he was just doing everything for the Red Sox offense on Tuesday. He fell just a triple short of the cycle in the victory because he did have 2 singles. One was an infield single and one was a single that was hit a little bit harder. And then the double and the home run that he hit as well allowed him to almost hit for the cycle. And we know Duran, if anybody's capable of hitting a triple, which is typically the hardest and least common hit in the cycle to get, Duran is somebody who could get that with his speed. So I was really hoping that would happen. Would have been a cool story for him. But he still was the bulk of the Red Sox offense on Tuesday night. And the best thing about Duran to me, it's just how aggressive he is, because in Monday night's loss, he hit a home run on the first pitch of the game in that game, and he wasn't shy to just put his bat out there and be aggressive and pounce on the first pitch he saw. And he did a similar thing in the win on Tuesday night. He pounced on the first pitch of the game to hit a double. So I really just like the fact that he doesn't shy away from swinging at anything. A lot of times I encourage hitters to be patient at the plate and wait for their pitch, because a lot of times you see it come back to bite them if they don't do that. Like Cedar Rafaela was in a really bad habit of constantly wanting to swing at every pitch thrown his way. But you can't always do that and be successful with it. With him, it led to a lot of strikeouts. But with Duran, it leads to hits. And he needs to be aggressive, because if he gets on base, that's such an advantage the Red Sox have because of how fast he is. So he is able to see the ball really well. And as a result, he attacks the plate and he goes for the first pitch he sees a lot of the time, but also is not afraid to wait and pursue his pitch first and make the opposing pitcher work. So that's one thing I really like about Duran is just that knowledge and eye that he has when he is at the plate of knowing when it's appropriate for him to swing at the first pitch and when it's not. But I love his aggressiveness because it works for him and he's able to get hits all over the place. He has sprinkled some singles into the infield and to the outfield this year. He's been able to reach on singles as close to the catcher, just being a tap that lands next to him. A roller down the first baseline, one that pretty much lands right at third base. And he's had a variety of singles hit to shortstop where he's able to beat it out. And same with second base. So he can hit it pretty much anywhere. And he has a lot of singles that go to the outfield as well. But he doesn't even have as many singles as a lot of other players do because a lot of times he's turning his singles into doubles. He's had doubles that haven't left the infield. It's crazy how fast he is, and he's able to get doubles that bounce off the wall, and he can still slide in and hit second base. He's had triples that have been sprinkled all throughout. He's had triples that have gone slightly past the infield grass, and he's able to go all the way around the bases and get himself to third base because of his ability to slide into bases seamlessly, and he has the speed to get around quickly. And then he does have his fair share of home runs as well, where he's just crushed baseballs. So I really like how he's been able to sprinkle in a little mix of everything this year. And it really makes it tough for a pitcher to know what to pitch to him because certain hitters, they can only hit certain pitches well. They can't really utilize all aspects of the ballpark. So maybe you have the infield play in a little bit because he makes more weak contact. So you want to make sure you can make the play since he's fast. So you can kind of in game make those types of decisions during his at-bats. But with Duran, you can't really do that as a pitcher because he's constantly keeping guys on his toes. Are they going to throw a slider to him? Are they going to throw a changeup? Are they going to throw a fastball? Is he going to hit it out of the ballpark? Is he going to hit a slow roller that barely gets past the infield, but he's speeding his way to second base? Is he going to get on first and then steal a base, which is most likely the case every time? So every pitcher should have figured out by now that they should be checking back to first base if he is on first for every pitch to make sure he's not stealing because the chances of him stealing are incredibly high. So he's just a fun all-around player to watch because he can just really keep guys on their toes. They don't know what to throw him, and he's able to utilize a lot of different types of swings to make an impact offensively. And the biggest thing for me this year has been impact. Which guys are able to contribute to the offense, put runs on the board, drive in other guys? Duran is the main player that pops into my head that can do that. And I'm very excited moving forward to see what he does the rest of the season because that MVP chase is still very much on. And when you have a 5-tool player like Duran, where he can do a lot of different things on the field, it definitely should be considered. His numbers are impressive, even though they're not the highest, and he's not batting over 300 right now. If he gets to above 300 on his batting average for the season before the regular season ends, he definitely should be in the conversation for MVP because you also have to consider the fact that he's just a maniac on the base paths and can steal lots of bases. So Jarren Duran continues to be such a fun player for this Red Sox team to watch. And he is the reason the Red Sox won that game on Tuesday night. They had other offensive opportunities, stranded the bases loaded late when they could have recorded some insurance runs and they were unable to cash in. He is the reason they won. He was the bulk of the offense, and I really think he deserves to be in the MVP conversation, even if it doesn't turn out to go his way. He has a lot of things that he does that are deserving of it. So I can't wait to watch the rest of his season for him and see how he does. But Casas also reached base 4 times in the Red Sox win on Tuesday night, adding a single and 2 walks to an absolute towering 2-run home run that he hit. So the Red Sox were able to cash in offensively, particularly due to those two, especially because Nick Pivetta didn't have the best start. 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, only 2 Ks, and he did give up 2 home runs. The long ball just continues to hurt Pivetta, and it's something that's been very frustrating because I hoped it would start to fix itself, but it really hasn't. He just continues to be plagued by that. So I'm hoping he can turn that around. But Jarren Duran, MVP of the game, no doubt about it. And coming up, I'm going to be talking about a pitcher who made an appearance in the game on Tuesday night and could be a game changer for the Red Sox. Why? You're about to find out. If you don't know much about cars like myself and you're looking for some help, eBay Motors is the place for you. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I'm telling you, I literally know nothing when it comes to random lights coming on in my car and not knowing what service needs to be done. So I always go to eBay Motors, and they've never once disappointed me, so you should too. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On MLB podcast. Host Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, is here daily to provide national expertise with his trademark humor to help you get ready for the MLB playoffs here in the dog days of summer. Prepare for the Fall Classic with Sully, who has it all covered every single day on Locked On MLB, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Sully is so much fun. I've done a couple crossover shows with him, and he absolutely is the best. So make sure you check out Locked On MLB right after this. The Red Sox recorded a 6-5 win over the Houston Astros on Tuesday night. Another tight game, just like Monday night was. And this game was very much back and forth. Red Sox took 3-0 lead. The Astros came back and tied it at 3. And the game just kept going back and forth with the Red Sox taking a lead, the Astros tying it, and then the Red Sox taking another lead. It just was a crazy turn of events in this game, but that is sometimes how it goes with baseball. And huge credit to the bullpen, a very shaky bullpen that it's been as of late. Came into the game and pitched 4 scoreless innings. And Zach Kelly and Luis Garcia were part of those scoreless innings, both pitchers who have very much struggled. Luis Garcia since being traded here at the trade deadline, and Zach Kelly all season long just really has not been able to figure things out. Luis Garcia with a 5.16 ERA, Zach Kelly with a 2.81, but he's been very sloppy lately. So I was really happy that those two guys were able to get the job done out of the bullpen. But Greg Weissert is another pitcher who made an appearance for the Red Sox, pitched 1 inning and struck out 1 in the inning, giving up 0 earned runs. So he is back with the Red Sox. He was recalled from AAA Worcester on Monday. To make room for him, the Red Sox optioned left-handed pitcher Bailey Horn to Worcester following Sunday's series finale against the Orioles. The 29-year-old Greg Weissert has recorded a 4.24 ERA, giving up 22 earned runs over 46.2 innings pitched, with 47 strikeouts in 45 major league games this season. He also owns a 1.50 ERA with 1 earned run given up over 6.0 innings pitched, with 7 strikeouts in 4 outings with Worcester. He was originally selected by the Yankees in the 18th round of the 2016 first-year player draft and is also a New York native, and he owns a 4.38 ERA, 38 earned runs given up over 78.0 innings pitched in 74 career games with the Yankees from 2022 to 23 and Red Sox in 2024. So he was struggling out of the bullpen this year for the Red Sox, and they were trying so hard to see if he could figure things out. He was one of the pieces the Red Sox got in the Alex Verdugo trade, so they really wanted badly for him to get himself on track and be able to be somebody who could contribute out of the bullpen. And early on, he was up in Boston for a while, and he would struggle, but the Red Sox would let it go, let him continue pitching, probably because they were hoping that he would be able to figure things out and be a big contributor for this Red Sox team. So they ultimately ended up having him pitch for a bit, but then because he was continuing to struggle and wasn't showing any signs of improvement, they sent him down to AAA. And now he's been pitching well in AAA. And it's been very good to see the way that he was able to get himself back on track in Worcester, because it's going to be absolutely apparent for him to contribute now that he's back up in the majors. And he did look good in that 1 inning that he pitched for Boston on Tuesday night. And I'm hoping that the time down in Worcester was something that was very much needed for him, and he was able to clean up some of the issues he was having and be able to figure out what was going wrong for him, and that he can now stay up at the major league level. And he's being tested for sure, because Liam Hendriks is on the brink of making his Red Sox debut. Justin Slayton eventually will be coming back. Those are 2 guys that the Red Sox know they could use out of the bullpen. So the question will then become at that point, who gets optioned to AAA? And if Weissert pitches the way that he did when he started to struggle, he is somebody who they'll easily make the decision to bring back down to AAA. Whereas if we get the version of Weissert that we saw early on in the season, who was actually relatively reliable for this Red Sox bullpen, then he'll likely stay up and they'll send somebody else down to AAA when Hendriks or Slayton come back. So this is a big opportunity for Weissert to be able to come back up and slot himself into the bullpen and be a reliable piece, because overall this bullpen has been an absolute mess since the All-Star break, and it has been the primary reason for the Red Sox not being able to win games and gain a lot of ground in that wild card race. And it's concerning, and I'm glad that the Red Sox tried out a familiar face who spent some time in Worcester, as opposed to just continuing to run it back with the same guys. And I don't blame them for sending Bailey Horn down to AAA, because he was absolutely struggling. The 26-year-old has recorded a 6.48 ERA with 12 earned runs over 16.2 innings pitched in 14 games with Boston this season, which was his major league debut. He was acquired from the Chicago White Sox on April 30th, is a Texas native, and owns a 1.74 ERA with 4 earned runs given up over 20.2 innings pitched, with 23 strikeouts and a 169 opponent batting average, as they have gone 12 for 71 against him in 15 games, 1 start with Worcester. So obviously a small sample size here for him relatively, because this is his first season in the majors. When he was pitching in Worcester, he was pitching a lot more comfortably, and he was finding a lot more success. He was striking guys out. He was keeping them from even reaching base, and he just looked a lot more comfortable down there. So I do wonder if it's just that pressure of being in the majors that affected his performance a little bit, because it's always interesting when you see the difference in the way a pitcher pitches when they're up in the majors versus when they're in AAA. And sometimes it's like night and day. And for him, maybe he just needs more time in AAA. Maybe he was just rushed up to the major league roster. And part of that was just because the Red Sox have had all of these injuries this year, and they might have just been desperate to get somebody new called up and give them an option. So that potentially could be it, that maybe he just needed more time in Worcester, and I'm hoping he can get more time in Worcester, and maybe he'll get another opportunity later on down the road. But this bullpen is hanging by a thread right now, and bringing up somebody like Weissert, who has shown success in AAA, deserves another shot to come back into this bullpen and show how he's improved and show that he deserves to be up in the majors, because what else do they really have to lose at this point? If they want to stay in this wild card race, they don't really have another choice. They can't keep running the same guys out there every single night, because for one, they're going to get fatigued, and for two, if they are continuing to struggle and it's the same guys over and over, how are we supposed to feel confident in those guys to take us to a competitive playoff run? We just can't really. And Kenley Jansen did pitch again in the game on Tuesday night. He closed it out in the 9th inning with the Red Sox winning 6-5, but he has pitched a lot lately. He has pitched in 4 of the last 5 games for this Red Sox team, and that's a lot of usage for him. And it's because the Red Sox have been playing these close games and kind of hanging on by a thread here. So Jansen is somebody who might not be available now for a few days because of how much he's been used as of late. And the Red Sox have to feel like they have options that they can trust. And it was a gamble putting in Weissert on Tuesday night because of the fact that it had been a bit since he had been up in the majors. And it certainly was a gamble putting in Luis Garcia because he hasn't shown any signs of positivity since being traded to Boston. But Alex Cora really didn't have much of a choice in that case, because a lot of this bullpen, again, has just been severely overworked because the Red Sox have just had lots of games lately without an off day, and that can put a lot of pressure on pitchers physically because it's so demanding if they have to pitch a lot of consecutive days. So they were definitely hoping for a better start from Nick Pivetta, definitely hoping for him to pitch deeper in the game because of the fact that their strongest relievers have been throwing a lot lately, so they didn't really want to have to use as many arms. But that didn't really happen the way that the Red Sox wanted it to. So they ended up going with the guys they had to go with, and those guys were able to pull it off. But I don't trust that they can be consistent and continue to pull it off. At least, though, they did get a win against the Houston Astros finally, because that very much needed to happen. And if they could walk away with a win in today's day game, then that would for sure be a win, because winning the series after losing your first 4 games of the season against Houston would be a good way to at least get some redemption and feel like it wasn't as embarrassing and a little bit more respectful. So hoping for a big win today for this Red Sox team, especially because of the fact that they do need to keep winning games in order to catch up in those wild card standings, which I will be talking about coming up next. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, wait no longer. Just head to PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Just download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. PrizePicks will win you lots and lots of money if you allow it to. So make sure that you download the app ASAP as you're listening to this episode. The Boston Red Sox collected a big 6-5 win against the Astros on Tuesday night. A much-needed win, not only because they hadn't beaten the Astros yet this year, and they just needed to show that they are capable of even grabbing a win against them, but also because it was a big night for teams that the Red Sox are watching, particularly the Royals, who did take a loss on Tuesday night against the Angels. The Angels ended up winning 9-5. So not a great pitching game for Kansas City, but for a Kansas City team that seems to just win every night now, this was a miracle to me. I saw this as a miracle because it seems like every time I look at the scores of the Royals games, they're always winning. So I said, come on, Angels, please find a way to pull this out. And they did, while simultaneously I was hoping the Red Sox didn't blow their lead. So as a result of that, the Red Sox are now 3.5 games behind the Royals for that last wild card spot. And I really hope that the Red Sox can grind through the rest of their schedule. It has been said across the league that the Red Sox have the hardest schedule remaining in Major League Baseball for the rest of the season. They have the Diamondbacks next after this series wraps up, a team that is coming off of a World Series appearance last year. Then they have a 4-game series against the Blue Jays, which they absolutely have to win. The very minimum would be to split, but 3 out of 4 would be ideal because the Blue Jays are not in contention, have been seriously struggling a lot this year. So that's a series that feels like a must win. Then 3 against the Tigers also feels like a must win. 3 at the Mets, which could be a tough series. I mean, the Mets have been playing better baseball this year than I think people thought that they would. And right now they are currently 65-61, 8.5 games off the pace in the NL East. But they are definitely a team that could give the Red Sox a run for their money for sure. Then the White Sox, you just have to sweep. That there is no choice, just have to get the sweep there. Then another 3 against the Orioles and 3 against the Yankees. So those series are going to be tough. Lots of division opponents. After the series against the Orioles and Yankees, then they face the Rays for 3. And then the Twins, who are also in the wild card race right now. So they have a tough September coming up, tough few weeks coming up, and the Royals' schedule starts to get harder as well. So my hope is that the Red Sox can try to pull out wins in some of these games, and simultaneously the Royals start to slow down a little bit because they're facing some tough opponents. Now, the Red Sox saving grace right now is that they own the tiebreaker against the Royals because they won the season series against them. So if they were to end the season with the same record, which would be absolutely insane, but wouldn't surprise me with the way that Major League Baseball has gone this year, if that were to happen, that would mean the Red Sox would get the wild card spot over Kansas City because of the fact that the Red Sox won the season series. So they do have that going for them, but they have to win games. And this bullpen performance that we saw on Tuesday night has to carry over, and they have to stay consistent, because the last thing we would want is for this Red Sox team to continue to have an offense that is putting up a ton of runs every night, and then the bullpen is just blowing it, because my concern is that whenever the Red Sox score, they're allowing their opponent to then score in the next half inning. And we saw even that on Tuesday night when Pivetta was on the mound. Every time the Red Sox would score, the Astros would come pouncing in the next half inning and tie the game. That absolutely cannot happen down the stretch here. And my hope is that Andrew Bailey decides to change the approach a little bit with this bullpen as a whole, really start to hone in on what's working and what's not, because I do feel like with this bullpen, it's been the same thing for too long. And a lot of these guys getting into bad habits of throwing pitches that aren't necessarily catered to their strengths as much. And they're missing on pitches. And if they're continuing to miss on pitches, then it's going to be easier for hitters to make waves on offense. So it's tough to watch the way that they are pitching right now as a bullpen as a whole, but the Red Sox are in the mix still, and it's too soon to close the door on the season. The Red Sox still have a lot of games left to be played. They still have time to make up ground in the wild card standings, but if they don't fix this bullpen ASAP and they don't string together wins against some of these very good teams that they're playing down the stretch in September, then they don't have a shot. And my hope is, they've shown that they can beat the Yankees. They have a winning record against them head to head this season. And the Yankees have not been playing fantastic baseball either as of late. So I'm hoping that the Red Sox can give them a run for their money. I mean, they struggle against Baltimore. They did split that series against them this past weekend, but it's incredibly crucial for them to win games against the Orioles, because if they lose the majority of those games, it'll just push them further and further back, even if the Royals are losing games. And it's just very much not ideal that they got swept by Houston, because that was one of the biggest things that lost them ground significantly in the wild card standings. But I'm ready for this Red Sox team to just win games and adjust what they need to adjust with this bullpen, because that is the root of the problem right now. And I think it's already been established that Craig Breslow and company have no choice but to invest in this bullpen this offseason, get some arms in here that can seriously make an impactful difference on this team. So get those guys in here, get a front end starter that is a no doubt ace to add to this rotation, and then the Red Sox are rolling. But until then, because the trade deadline is passed now, this is the group that they're rolling with. So therefore, guys have to be used. So if you see a guy out there that you don't necessarily want to be out there, well, this is unfortunately the situation that Alex Cora has been put in, of having to use guys that we might not necessarily want to see ever. Like Luis Garcia, for example. I mean, I know I didn't want to see him in a one-run game. I mean, that was scary, because I was just holding my breath thinking he was going to give up the lead. And as it is, there was a ball hit pretty deep to center when he was pitching, and I thought it was gone. Would have been a 2-run homer, because there was a runner on base, and it would have given Houston the lead. So I was almost prepared for him to give up the lead. But if Alex Cora had enough good resources, he wouldn't have to use somebody like Luis Garcia in a high leverage situation like that. But because the Red Sox are in the situation they're in with this bullpen, he doesn't really have a choice. So they have to keep their eye on the prize and take it one game at a time. But moral of the story is, do not close the door on this season yet, because the Red Sox still do have a chance. They just need to fix what's going on with this pen, because a lot of other aspects of this team have been able to click in the way they want them to. I mean, the starting rotation certainly could still use some work, but the bullpen is the glaring weakness that has been holding them back. So Andrew Bailey has to figure out a way to make it so that these guys coming out of the pen can be more consistent and not giving up runs constantly to blow leads when the Red Sox are putting up 6 or 7 runs. So don't give up yet, but lots of work to still be done. As always, go Red Sox, keep the faith, and I will catch you on the flip side.